And welcome to this 2-hour edition of Hannity. We're live on the Vegas Strip at the MGM Grand Hotel. Now, the third and final presidential debate is now in the books, and it was a very good night for Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, Newt Gingrich, Rudy Giuliani, Laura Ingraham, Monica Crowley, and many others are here with reaction to tonight's presidential debate and showdown. And we'll also have highlights of many of the big moments. But first, right after the debate and the candidates stepped off the stage, we spoke with Donald Trump Jr. in the spin room. Take a look moments ago. Joining us now is Don Trump Jr. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
All right, so Frank Luntz gave Hillary the first debate, your father in the next two. And those Luntz focus groups are pretty accurate, undecided voters.
Yep.
How did you feel about tonight?
I agree with him. I mean, I think we did great. I think he was able to highlight issues. He was able to talk about issues. He's able to talk about her failed track record. You know, he's right. She's been doing this for 30 years. Why haven't any? All of a sudden, she's got all these magical plans. Well, where were they before? This isn't rocket science. Every time my father has talked about something, everyone jumps, they react, right? He talks about TPP. He brings up our terrible trade deals. All of a sudden, everyone flips, and they say, oh, well, no, he's right. He talks about NATO and how it's been outdated and how it needs to adjust. 2 weeks later, NATO comes and says, well, you're right. Now we're going to talk about terrorism, and we're going to react accordingly. How come the outsider, the builder from New York, how come he has to be the guy that brings this up? Well, and everyone reacts. All these corporate politicians.
No, but it is. You know, she's become a multi-millionaire since playing on her job, and you know, your dad's probably losing a lot of money and opportunity costs and all this. So he's lost a lot of money in this and paying his own way.
You know what? He doesn't need this job, Sean. He doesn't need this job. He wants to do this job because he wants to give everyone in America, all ethnicities, all backgrounds, the same incredible opportunity that he was able to have to start a great family, to start a business, to live the American dream. And that's gone. And you know why it's gone? Because people in D.C. who've never had these jobs, they've never done any of these things. They get promised things. They make donations, so they get jobs, and they get high positions in government. We've seen that. Okay? They get deals in Haiti because they donated to the Clinton family.
That's so bad, right?
They take that money, they squander it, they put it in their pockets, they line there. The people in Haiti are saying, what happened? What happened? Where are the things that where's the $10 billion? They don't know. It's disgusting, and that's what's going to stop it. So I think my father had a great thing yesterday when he said, it's time to drain the swamp in D.C.
That was the #1 trending issue on Twitter. Let me ask you this, because I think this is important. We had 2 tapes now come out. I just saw James O'Keefe in the crowd here a moment ago. We had 2 tapes come out. One shows that money coming directly from the Clinton campaign, funneled through the DNC, funneled through democracy, whatever, right into the hands of agitators fomenting violence, going back as far as Chicago against your father, and a huge, massive voter fraud scheme that they put in the works. This, to me, hasn't even resonated with the American people yet.
No, it hasn't, and it has to get out there. I mean, and that's part of what he was talking about today, okay? We'll accept a fair result, but we're not going to accept something when they say, we've been doing this for 50 years, we've been busting, we don't play by the rules. The rules only apply to conservatives, apparently, or maybe we're the only ones with the morals to be able to actually comply by them. You know, this stuff's coming out. This isn't pretend. This is undercover video.
That's James O'Keefe right over there that did the video.
He did a great job, and I think, listen, he's doing the American people a great service by highlighting this, because everyone thinks, oh, the system's so honest, no way they would do this. He's seen it at the highest.
Can you imagine it?
He's been to the White House 350 times doing this. Met with the president 47 times. And they're saying, oh, this never happens. I mean, yesterday, Obama was saying, this never happens. Trump should stop whining. It happened. A couple hours later.
Could you imagine if your father was on tape funding the fomenting of violence? Could you imagine if it was your father or operatives within your father's campaign talking about a massive voter fraud scheme?
Sean, they would run him out of the country. And that's the problem. The double standard that exists between the liberals and the conservatives is disgusting. And it has to be highlighted. So I think James did a great job of being able to highlight that, to be able to show the American people. And everyone should go look at Project Veritas and see what happened. Because if you look at it as an American, and I don't care which side of the spectrum you're on, but if you look at it as an American, as a human, okay, and you're not totally disgusted, there's something wrong with you.
The last thing, and I've been asking everybody tonight the same question, there are deep and profound differences that we saw on that stage tonight, starting with the Supreme Court saying radical Islam or not, vetting refugees or not, building a wall or not, raising taxes, lowering taxes, eliminating Obamacare, fixing the educational system, energy independence. These are deep, profound differences. Do you think the American people understand the degree to which this is a massive choice election?
Well, you know, I think they do. The problem is, if you're a Hillary voter, which Hillary are they voting for? Are they voting for the private Hillary or are they voting for the public Hillary? Well, no. It's out there. There's 2 different standards.
No, she said it.
She said it's okay. So which one are they voting for? I don't know, but I have a feeling I know the answer. I have a feeling it's to the people that are writing 7-figure checks to her campaign. It's to the people who gave Bill Clinton $1 million birthday gift from the Middle East.
By the way, no, that was Qatar. Do you know in Qatar, this is interesting, women, marital rape is legal in Qatar? Marital beatings are legal in Saudi Arabia?
Double standard. Sean, if we took money from those countries, what would they be saying? They'd be screaming. Oh, it's a double standard, and I'm glad.
I'm going to say screaming bloody hell. I'll say it for you. Go ahead.
Screaming bloody hell. And that's true. And much worse. Okay? But it's a double standard that people have grown to accept in this country. And that's what we got to point out. We can't accept that anymore. It's not fair, and it shouldn't happen.
All right, last question. I was with you and a bunch of young millennials today, and when I mentioned the idea, hey, is Don Jr. one day going to run? Wait a minute. I thought I saw a standing ovation.
Well, listen, it'd be an honor to maybe do that someday. Right now, my only objective is to get him in there because I want to fix the mess that is D.C. I want to help him implement those policies that are going to bring jobs back to this country. I want to help him implement the policies that are going to put term limits on these guys that are going to prevent people in highest levels of government going and lobbying for other countries to suck American dollars into those countries. I want to fight for the people of this country, and that's what my father's been doing from day one. The hardworking men and women who built this country, they need a voice again, and my father's their voice.
Don Jr., good to see you. Also, right after the third and final presidential debate, right in the spin room just moments ago, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, he joined us for a reaction. Let's take a look. All right, joining us now, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and you also were a debate coach.
Yes, he did an absolutely great job. This was his best performance. I thought the one before was terrific, but this was even better. Much more presidential. Never lost his cool. Always kept within himself, and basically made it clear that she has accomplished nothing in 30 years. When he hit her with that, basically you've been there 30 years and nothing's been accomplished, she had no answer for it. Because there is no answer for it. And he basically made it clear that she's not qualified to be president because she should be in jail, which we all know.
And also, he brought up the fact look, there's so many instances now where she's not told the truth. How does that resonate with the American people? Do they elect somebody that is known to regularly not tell the truth?
Think of the thing that he brought out, that she paid people to create violence at his rallies. And then she had the gall, I think she must have forgotten about it, to accuse him of having violent rallies. And he came right back at her and he said, well, you paid for them. You paid for them. I mean, I've never heard of that, paying people. I mean, this is like Tammany Hall politics of the last century or 2 centuries ago. And I thought also Chris Wallace did a good job of keeping them on the issues, and that's where we really win. It's clear that his program of lower taxes, renegotiating bad trade deals, a growth economy is a heck of a lot better than a big government economy. And it worked for Reagan. It worked for Kennedy. What she wants to do hasn't worked for Obama. I thought Wallace pointing out that she basically wants to do Obama stimulus 2. Well, look what stimulus 1 did for us.
Yeah.
And
the hemispheric answer was pretty profound, too. I thought Chris obviously had done his research when he talked about the open hemisphere. That's 600 million people.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. He's talking. She, unfortunately, all those WikiLeaks things came out, and it's clear that she's in favor of a global government. Yeah. That's what she wants: open borders, open trade, and she said a hemispheric government. And the reality is, she wants to basically bankrupt us. Her answer to everything is, she's going to tax the rich, tax the rich, tax it. By the third time she said tax the rich, we ran out of rich. We got into middle class. By the fifth time, we were talking about poor people. She's going to tax everybody.
You know what really stood out to me tonight, and I agree with you. I thought Chris Wallace did a good job on substance. But what stood out to me is how dramatic the choice is. The differences here are profound.
Yes. There's a man with very clear views of how he wants to change America. And there's this person who's been around for 30 years who's never accomplished anything and wants to give us a socialist solution to the problems, which is actually, it's the one WikiLeaks that didn't come out when she told the Canadian bank that she preferred socialism and socialized medicine. Yeah. And it was quite clear in what she's talking about. Every answer was, well, I'll balance the budget by raising taxes. We'll be back at the 90% rate for her to do that.
The 2 times that we've had economic success, John Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, they both cut taxes, but also on the issue of refugees, the issue of immigration, the issue of Supreme Court justices.
He killed her on refugees. I mean, basically, no answer again. She is going to let in Syrian refugees. She's going to have open borders and let in Syrian refugees, and she's going to vet them. Except every official in the Obama government, says we can't vet them.
By the way, she and WikiLeaks said we can't vet them.
Right.
So doesn't that really mean she's willing to gamble with the lives of the American people?
Yes, it means she is going to bring in 600,000 or 700,000 people, of which, let's say, 10% are bad. And we have 60,000 terrorists in this country, in addition to the homegrown terrorists we already have. Her answer to why not do it, because we have a homegrown terrorist, is ridiculous. In other words, she wants to add to our homegrown terrorists we're going to bring from abroad. That's insane.
Comey, Brennan, Steinbeck, McCall, General Allen, all of them have said, and James Clapper, all of them have said that the refugee population will be infiltrated.
Yes, there's no question. There's no question it will be. Not only that, Baghdadi has said it. Baghdadi, on 4 separate occasions, said we are going to infiltrate the refugees with our, I think he called them terrorist operatives, and have them in Western Europe and the United States.
We've already seen it in Europe. We've already witnessed this in Europe.
We've been told by them that they're going to do it, and she is still going to bring them in, which is playing with our safety, which shows why she was so unsuccessful for 30 years. When Donald Trump said, you know, even Podesta thinks you have bad judgment. Now that we look at WikiLeaks, everybody knows she has bad judgment. She is so left-wing, she's so much a student of Saul Alinsky, that her ideology overcomes her common sense.
Let me ask about the polls. Let me ask about, there's so many balls up in the air when you look at Project Veritas coming out, WikiLeaks coming out every day with new revelations. Are we really getting an accurate sense? When does this all settle down?
I think as this whole Veritas thing settles down, it's going to really kind of coalesce all the different things that we found out under WikiLeaks. That's extraordinary, paying people to create violence at a...
That was a Veritas tape, yeah. And voter fraud at a high level. Well funded. The thing that was most interesting is they put the money right at the Clinton campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary, and it's something that then leads you to look at all the rest of the tapes. She has one position in public, one position in private. She wants socialized medicine. She likes the Canadian system better. She wants a hemispheric government. She really understands that these people can't be vetted, but she's going to bring them in anyway.
Unbelievable. Mr. Mayor, thanks. You enjoy the... Now you're going to miss debate prep. You missed that?
I am going to miss it, but I thought he was by far the best. And clearly, if you're looking at the two of them, just look at the way they performed. One performed like a president, and the other one performed like a failed Secretary of State.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for being with us. All right, things are just getting started on this 2-hour live edition of Hannity. When we come back, we'll check in with Newt Gingrich, Governor Mike Huckabee, Laura Ingraham, Monica Crowley, all here with reaction to tonight's presidential debate. Also later, Eric Trump, his wife Lara. Also, we'll check in with Malik Obama, the president's brother, right here tonight from Vegas. They tell women they can't drive. They tell women how to dress. They also talk about women. They have to get permission in many cases to go to school or work. Gays and lesbians are killed, and Christians and Jews are persecuted. Give the money back. Why hasn't that been discussed? We're only 20 days out of the election, and they take tens and tens of millions of dollars from countries that do that? Anyway, here with reaction on the phone, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich is with us. Mr. Speaker, before I get to your general feelings, I want that moment to me was a huge moment in this debate tonight.
I thought it was one of the moments where he cut through all the baloney and got people to see how real the Clinton phoniness is, and I think that's a big part of this. Chris and I watched the debate with about 120 Orange County, California Republicans, and overwhelmingly they thought that Trump did better than they expected, and they thought that Hillary did not do particularly well. And I think from his standpoint, he's got a pretty good momentum coming out of this debate to go into the last 20 days.
You know, it's interesting. Frank Luntz had him losing the first debate, winning the last two, winning tonight, winning the second debate. One thing that you've often said is that, you know what, he keeps growing. He's only been at this 18 months. And Rudy kind of was kidding about it tonight, and he goes, you know, if he had a fourth and fifth debate, he'd keep getting better every time. Do you agree with that?
That's right. He was clearly better tonight than he was in the second debate. Clearly better in the second debate than the first. I thought tonight that overall he did a very, very good job. He was very controlled. Matt Towery, a pollster who's been around a long time, just emailed me and said in the I-10 corridor where he's doing some work tonight, it's 55-35 that Trump beat Hillary. And that is the swing section of Florida. So that's very good news for Trump. I just think there was a general sense that on the big points that are going to matter, he kept scoring and she kept failing. And in a number of places, and I got to go back and do my homework on this, but for example, on the missing $6 billion in the State Department, I think she just plain lied.
Oh, she did lie. That story was reported in 2014. I had read it many, many times. She said it was debunked. That's not true. They have no idea where that money went. He was 100% correct. She's talking. That's 100%.
I think it was an inspector general. I think it was a government inspector general who found the $6 billion was missing.
Yeah, and they said, what is going on here? And nobody ever gave an answer on it. And she said, oh, that's been debunked. No, that wasn't debunked. So that's a good point. We've got a lot of other balls in the air here, Mr. Speaker. And, I know everyone's going to spin out of this debate. But the bottom line is Donald Trump stood toe-to-toe with a political machine, a robot that memorized her lines and came out. I look at Luns's focus groups are pretty tough because they're all independent voters, all undecided. And he won 2 of those 3 debates. And now you've got the Veritas ball in play, the Project Veritas. Then you got, the whole WikiLeaks that keep coming out, and you and I have been discussing at length now. And I just don't know if the public has yet to absorb the magnitude of all that's out there yet, and when we're going to get accurate poll numbers. What are your thoughts?
Well, I talked to 1,200 people at the Reagan Library last night and 950 people at the Nixon Library today, and the general feeling was enthusiasm and commitment. But in addition, I raised the question, where's the Federal Bureau of Investigation? How can we have the things you have been outlining in which people were planning to commit violence? We now have evidence from the Federal Election Commission reports that the Clinton campaign was paying some of the people who were planning the violence. And we had a report today that the guy who was the key organizer of this was in the White House over 300 times. Now, how can all this be going on and the FBI doesn't exist? I mean, what has happened to America when you can have this kind of clear, visible signs of an effort to undermine democracy and use violence, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation is missing?
Mr. Speaker, we had him on tape saying that Hillary has knowledge of fomenting the violence, knowledge of their voter fraud scheme. We have the FBI, a quid pro quo that is offered to the FBI. We'll give you what you want if you just let Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham and Newt Gingrich off. Good luck to the rest of the world. And then on top of that, we discovered collusion with the State Department tipping Hillary and her campaign off, and the Justice Department tipping them off, and the Obama White House, Obama himself lying about not knowing about the email server because he was emailing her on that server.
And by the way, I thought it was very telling when Trump did a very good job of bringing in General Cartwright's dilemma, where for one violation he's threatened with jail, and for 33,000 missing emails plus destroying various government servers, etc. I mean, the degree to which we are seeing corruption in action is just beyond anything I'd ever imagined could happen in the United States.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thanks so much for being with us. I know you're going to be at the Nixon Library tomorrow night, or when are you going to be at the Nixon Library?
We were just there today. No, we're there today. We had a great time, and I hope to be with you maybe tomorrow. We'll talk some on radio about how this is evolving.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thank you. As of tomorrow, now today, 19 days to go. Joining us now, former 2016 GOP presidential candidate, former Governor Mike Huckabee, and the editor-in-chief of LifeZette. You got to go to this website. It's amazing. Fox News contributor. They never mentioned she's a nationally syndicated radio host. She's going to be up in 3 hours.
Oh, my God.
Sorry. Did I forget you the good news?
Can barely walk over there. He's okay, Drew. Hi, Drew.
You were happy with tonight's debate performance. When you heard that line about the Saudis give the money back,
no, it was so. There were cheers coming from where we were sitting. That was such a great moment. Hillary was not expecting it.
Yeah.
And when she doesn't expect a parry like that parry, she's off her game. You know, one of the other great moments that not a lot of people have focused on is when Trump was talking about what he learned about America. That was a moment of humility.
I agreed with you.
And he stepped back and he said, I've traveled this country, and despite what you're saying about how things are better, You know, I travel to these communities that have been ravaged by globalization, and the people are crying about the lives they lost. And then he got kind of stepped on there, but he said the people are crying. Those are the stories of America. Those are real Americans whose lives have been just upturned by bad leadership and bad policies. Some of it goes back to before Barack Obama. There's some Republican fault, some Democrat fault. But he really touched on that. And he said we can do better by the American people. They need real leadership.
You're right.
Those moments of a little grace and a little humility on his part, I think were very, very good. The media's going to focus on I'm not going to say the election is legitimate, and I knew when he said that, which is the only reason I wish he didn't say it, because I knew it just gave them a line to go with.
All right, here's what the rest of the media, I promise you, are not going to bring up tonight. Let's go back to the year.
Good.
Let's go back to the year 2000.
I was on TV with you that night.
Bill Clinton urged Al Gore not to accept the results of the 2000 election. By the way, I'll quote the liberal media, the Washington Post, 11/8/2000, the acid of their year-long fight, Let's make sure we understand, protested Bush, et cetera, Florida governor. And there it is. President Clinton called Gore to second his decision, praise him for a good night, and note consolingly that Gore had won the nation's popular vote and also not to accept the results. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. I mean, we were on that night until like
By the way, you're aging us here, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It was a long time ago. But we remember that night. And there are still, very prominent supporters of Al Gore and the Democrat Party
to this day,
who never thought that President Bush was a legitimate president. They kept that going on bumper stickers and buttons. They never let that go. And Hillary even brought up, without mentioning his name, George Bush today. We say, it was the worst recession since the Great Depression. She brought out that old trope tonight, not taking responsibility.
By the way, it's 8 years. He's been out of office 8 years.
They will still blame Bush for the fact that the world is in chaos today.
If the dog bites, if the bee stings, if you're feeling sad, it's all Bush's fault.
Oh, I love it. Could you sing that now? Actually, the Zika virus is Bush's fault. The fact that Eminem hasn't had a hit.
By the way, if you drink a lot of vodka or Jack Daniels or beer tonight and you have a headache tomorrow, it's not your fault. It's Bush's fault.
But it was embarrassing. That moment was embarrassing for her, though.
All right, Governor, you've always been one of the great debaters on the stage at these presidential events, and so your analysis is important. What do you think?
Well, I wish they would have, had a handshake, a little bit more civility. But let me tell you, I thought Donald Trump clearly won tonight. I mean, I really did. And look, I'm not unbiased. I recognize there's no objectivity coming out of me. But, Sean, there was a very critical moment early in the debate, and I hope that every Catholic and every evangelical in this country paid careful attention to the stark contrast between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton when it came to the issue of protecting innocent human life. Hillary Clinton vividly defended the idea of late-term partial birth abortion, calling it women's health. Donald Trump boldly took a stand for life tonight. And for all these never-Trumpers out there, they need to get off their keister, if you will. Just stand up and
Governor,
recognize
there is
say the word.
a
Governor,
clear choice
get
here,
off their
Sean.
ass. Just say it.
Say the word. Come on.
Tell them to get off their ass and stop being a bunch of crybabies.
Come on.
Keister, come on, Governor. You're aging yourself now.
Governor, they're standing with the woman who stood up there today and said, I'm 100% for Roe versus Wade and partial birth abortion. That's what Never Trump stands for, I guess, Roe versus Wade and partial birth abortion.
And by the way, all the other decisions that a Hillary appointee would make on the court, beyond for generations, which is a very key thing. I'm so tired of all those people. They don't deserve any more discussion until the day after election. Then I've got a lot to say about Paul Ryan and the rest of it. Let me ask you both, a lot of balls in the air. We have Project Veritas. I don't think that is totally seeped into the public consciousness yet. And we got WikiLeaks. I've been rolling page after page on the show every night, just giving headlines because it's so deep. How much impact is that going to have? And Trump winning tonight's debate, how much impact is that going to have moving forward?
I think the corruption of Washington, as it develops over the next 2 weeks, has to be capitalized on by this campaign, the Trump campaign. He touched on WikiLeaks tonight. I don't think he hit it as he could have. I think he should have hit the collusion between the Justice Department and the State Department, the attempt to reclassify the documents, all of that. I mean, the collusion between the media and the Clinton campaign.
Oh, my God.
I mean, there's so much there. It's almost too much to get into.
Can you imagine all the criticism we have gotten during this campaign? And all of a sudden, we find out we're honest.
Yeah.
We tell you what we think.
Right. John Harwood is like is helping out. Donna Brazil's giving the questions.
Yeah.
Univision's like helping to run the show.
Chris Hayes taking questions.
Maggie Haberman. They're like, well, Maggie Haberman. We always can count on her at the New York Times. I mean, this is a level of corruption and collusion we've never seen before.
And it's also the Republican establishment against them, the Democratic establishment, Governor Huckabee, the media establishment, with all these balls in the air, Project Veritas, WikiLeaks, tonight's debate performance. When do you think we get a real feel for where the public is on this election? Or is it Brexit? Is it going to be a 10-point swing and the public just comes out in huge numbers and shocks the world like they did in Great Britain?
Well, I was in Great Britain when the Brexit vote happened, and it did shock everybody there, except the voters, because here's what was happening. Nobody wanted to admit that they were voting to get out of the EU because they didn't want to be called a racist or a bigot or a xenophobe. There are a lot of people who call themselves undecided or that just don't want to answer the pollster questions. But the truth is, I think on Election Day, people are going to walk in there and say there are two different visions of America. One comes from a person who wants to protect America, American jobs, American borders, American babies, and the other is a globalist who wants to sell off American jobs to whoever will pay the Clinton Foundation the most money. And I believe, Sean, to this day, I believe Donald Trump will win that election, and it will be a staggering blow
political
to the
earthquake.
national media
And by the way,
and to
she
the
doesn't want open
Republicans.
borders. She wants open hemisphere.
No, she wants open borders for energy. What was that answer? No, I was talking about energy. Governor Huckabee, first of all, you're one of the great debaters of all time. You just summed it up perfectly, and thank you for reminding us how important Trump's stance for life was. The innocent who have no representation or no lobbyists, he spoke up for them tonight.
The ninth month is infanticide.
And he's not
That's a viable
but
baby.
He's not like you, Governor Huckabee, who's been speaking about this issue for decades. He's speaking like a regular person. When he looked at her and he said, I don't care what you say.
That's
wrong. Not right.
It's wrong.
That's not right what you're doing to those babies. We were like crying.
I thought he was very
like,
powerful tonight.
It was touching. That was very touching. I'm so glad you raised
bold.
that.
He got
and I would
right
even
to the
argue
point.
to you,
and
Governor, I would argue, even if you're pro-choice, you're not in favor of infanticide in the 9th, 8th, 7th month. You're just not.
It's absolutely just a most unconscionable act. And most pro-choice Democrats don't go that far because they can't. I mean, most of us can't even go very far after conception.
That's a viable
child.
Gosh,
when the
that
baby
child
is
is viable
fully
outside the womb.
But he demonstrated the fanaticism on the Planned Parenthood.
That's a good point. Yeah.
She's a fanatic on globalization, Planned Parenthood, open borders. She's an absolute fanatic.
I'd like to see the 33,000 emails.
That we wouldn't need WikiLeaks if we had all those emails.
We really didn't. Guys, good to see you. Thank you both. All right, when we come back, Eric Trump joins us, as well as his wife, Laura, with reaction to tonight's final presidential debate. Also, Herman Cain, Sheriff David Clark, Steve Hilton will be here with analysis. That, and also Malik Obama, Barack Obama's brother, live on the set. Trump at tonight's presidential debate. Earlier, we spoke with Eric Trump and his wife, Laura, in the spin room. Take a look at this. All right, joining us now, Eric and Laura Trump. Well, the lunch group had him winning. I'm betting the Trump team has him winning, too.
I definitely had him winning. Honestly, I'm so proud of him. I was kind of that giddy son and, in the second row looking over at him, but I was so proud of him. I mean, look at what he's accomplished in the last 18 months. Here's a businessman, incredibly successful, decides he wants to do something great for his country so we can take our country back from, crooked politicians who have been running into the ground. He won the Republican nomination against 17 highly skilled people. Now, all of a sudden, we were on the third debate, for the presidential election. The polls are going well. Everything's doing great. And, I mean, here we are. It's just kind of hard to believe that.
I remember, when I one time said you that, I was saying, the art of politics is a little different than the art of the deal. Yeah. And by the way, I'm 6'1". He's really big. I was just telling my TV crew at home. But, the thing that stuck out, and I've been asking everybody, and of course I want your opinion too, Laura, is there's such profound differences here. The Supreme Court, ISIS, saying radical Islam, vetting refugees, immigration, health care, Obamacare, securing the borders, taxes, education, energy.
Well, it pops out to me, too. I mean, every single time he says, where have you been over the last 30 years? Hillary Clinton's been a politician. I say this all the time, longer than I've been alive. Right? Where have you?
You're not 30?
Where has she been the entire time?
How old are you?
I'm 33. All right, she's at least very close. Where has she been? I mean, look at the problems. We have a massive problem with ISIS. We've spent $6 trillion in the Middle East. We've lost thousands of lives. Our VA is a wreck. We've got huge national deficits. We've got $20 trillion worth of debt. It's gone up $11 trillion. Where has she been? She didn't bring a single job to upstate New York. Not a single job. She promised 200,000 new jobs to upstate New York. She didn't create one while being a senator in New York State. And then she goes out tonight and she promises 10 million new jobs. Give me a break. Yeah. She promises she won't add another dollar to the national deficit. Yet Obama brought it up by $11 trillion.
He accumulated more debt than every other president before him combined. All right, general thoughts, Laura.
Well, you know, you're talking about the profound differences between these two people. And to me, it's very obvious. Donald Trump speaks on behalf of the people. This is the people's president. This is a man who saw a problem with our country and wanted to fix it. And then you see Hillary Clinton, who is speaking on behalf of donors, special interest group, Wall Street. And so I think you felt that tonight. And I think the American people are going to be so proud to cast their vote for Donald.
How hard is it for both of you when she goes out with her memorized, pre-programmed attacks? Does that bother you?
Well, I think for so many people, we read through it. You can tell how scripted she is. And so we don't buy it. And it doesn't bother me at all, because I think the reason that Donald Trump did so well, especially in the beginning, is because he talks like all of us and he says what we're all thinking, and he doesn't need to memorize lines. He speaks from the heart. He speaks from his gut.
You know, one of the things you or Don Jr., your brother, told me early on was he's a blue-collar billionaire. I mean, he really does. He has connected with those 95 million Americans, to give the exact number, that are out of the labor force since Obama's been president. 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty. You mentioned we doubled the debt. Why is he connecting so well with it?
Well, listen, this isn't a campaign. I've always said this is not a campaign. It's a movement. And he has created a movement. Everywhere he goes, he has 25, 30,000 people show up. I mean, people want this country back. They've been left behind. The people in this country no longer have a voice. If you don't have a beautiful marble office on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., you don't have a voice. You've been totally left behind. Hillary was talking about the Supreme Court tonight, and she was talking about how she'd like justices that take dirty money out of politics. Yet she'll raise $1 billion, $1.5 billion.
How much did Saudi Arabia give her? How much did she get from Wall Street?
Incredible. And people are also sick of politicians who think they're above the law. And you see the Ponzi scheme that's the Clinton Foundation. You see the email controversy. You see her lying to the Department of Justice. You see her lying to the FBI. You see her lying to Congress. You see her lying to the American...
Your father didn't hold back tonight. He laid it out.
And I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did, because you know what? The mainstream media, Sean, they haven't. And so he has to bring that case to her, and that's very, very sad. But the American people read through it.
Let me ask you both this question. We now have learned through WikiLeaks, Univision, NBC, CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, all these major networks, New York Times, Boston Globe, and I'm sure I'm missing a number, clearly in the tank for Hillary. Clearly there's collusion. What is your reaction to that?
I mean, that's nothing that we didn't know already. You just have to turn on the TV to see it. And I think it just confirms what all along we have all suspected, that the media has been helping Hillary Clinton since the beginning of her campaign. They've been helping her for the last 30 years, quite frankly. And without the media, I think that we would see much different numbers out there. And I don't even believe the numbers I see, because when Eric and I travel around this country, the movement, as he said, that has started behind Donald Trump is incredible. The thousands and thousands of people filling stadiums have to mean something. And I just can't wait to see the result on November 8th, because I think he's going to win in a very big way.
Nice work.
Listen, with very few exceptions, this whole cycle, the media's gotten it wrong. And the media, with, again, few exceptions, doesn't have the pulse of the American people.
I think I'm like the only exception.
Honestly, I'd say you're one of the very few exceptions.
Fox and Friends, too. They're over there. Yeah.
Every one of these political pundits said he was never going to get through the primaries. He's never going to beat any of the people up there. And he got through the primaries, and he beat them, and he beat them easily. They never said he was going to be here, and he's here. They never thought he'd have the poll numbers. And by the way, he's taken on the whole world. He's taken on that mainstream media. He's taken on maybe the greatest political machine in the history.
Republicans and Democrats.
He's taken on his own party. You're 100% right. He's taken on special interests like you wouldn't believe. Again, a money machine, unlimited resources. He's taken it on. And look at where we are today. You know, after 3 debates, he's won. You know, I think he's won all 3. He's definitely won.
Franklin's had him winning 2.
And
2 of the 3, the last 2.
And Sean, I think we're going to win on November 8th. I really do. I think we're in an unbelievable position. I've said it all along. We're going to win this thing. I think we're going to win on November 8th.
You want him to run one day?
Oh my gosh, we're all going to need a long cooling off period from politics.
You might have 8 years in Washington.
Well, we'll take a breather after this, and then we'll reassess.
All right, joining us now with reaction, former advisor to British Prime Minister David Cameron. Steve Hilton is here, Fox News contributor Herman Cain, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark. And, all right, so let's go through the Brexit analogy. A lot of people say, okay, the polls would say now advantage Hillary. But we've got Project Veritas, that ball's in the air. We got tonight's debate, that's up in the air. I think Trump won this debate hands down. Then we got the whole WikiLeaks ball up in the air. We don't even know what's going to happen there. And everything we are learning isn't good. Donald Trump hit her hard on taking money from Sharia countries that abuse women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews. I was glad he did it tonight. What's the fallout? Are we going to see a 10-point swing like you saw in Britain?
I don't know if we're going to see that scale, but what's really clear when you look at what happened tonight is that on the big argument that should be at the heart of this election, who's going to bring back jobs, who's going to get the economy going, who's going to help the victims of the establishment economics, the cozy cartel between Republicans and Democrats going on here, just as you saw in the UK with Brexit. Those people who've been on the losing end of globalization and technology, who's going to help them by bringing the big change?
You were with David Cameron. Cameron thought the night the votes were coming in, he was going to win by 5.
He was told that, I think more than 5. And actually, he was using Obama's data people who gave him pretty dodgy information.
Wow.
Because what they didn't count on was the fact that for years you've had so many people who've given up on politics.
Right.
They see that whoever they vote for,
and they showed up in droves, and they didn't tell the pollsters, did they?
Well, they didn't tell them, because the other parallel was that if you supported Brexit, you were accused of being a racist, xenophobic, a bigot.
Right.
Exactly what's happening.
Why does that sound familiar?
Does that sound familiar? You know, Herman and I, and Sheriff Clark, I'll bring you in on this too, but Herman and I were talking about Sheriff. He never got in trouble his entire life until he ran for president.
That's true.
And then, by the way, the minute he got out, all the allegations all went away. They disappeared into the ether.
I find the Brexit analogy absolutely parallel.
You think it's going to happen?
Absolutely.
You do think it's going to happen?
Because, and Steve will verify that for the Brexit poll, it just was the absolute reverse. Secondly, I believe that the polls in this country, I believe it's a dead tie. We talked about that.
Right.
Hillary doesn't have a great big advantage. This is what the liberal lapdog media want people to think, to discourage folk from voting for Donald Trump, believe that it is over. It's not over.
And you notice every election season, the week before the election, all these guys want to start getting it right.
Yep.
So all of a sudden the polls start shifting last minute because they don't want to be proven so wrong on everything. Sheriff Clark, your thoughts tonight?
No, it's a TKO for Donald Trump. Mrs. Bill Clinton was out on her feet by the end of this thing. You know, she's an empty pantsuit. They just plug her in, and all she did in all 3 debates, was throw out the talking points no matter what the question was. I thought the most despicable part of the evening, though, was where she tried to justify, she tried to dodge it, but she didn't. The partial birth abortion where they pull the baby out, maybe leave its feet, you know, still inside and then twist its neck off like Dr. Gosnell was doing. Even people, and many of your guests have pointed out, even people who support abortion cannot stomach that sort of thing. But in the end, I think Donald Trump's best part was his closing. He looked into the camera, told the American people what he was going to do, get the economy going, jobs, and again he appealed to the black vote. And it was a very sincere appeal that they deserve better jobs, better schools, and safer neighborhoods. And he also talked about his support for the police and the important role that police play in our society. By the end, she had no idea of what she was talking about, and like I said, she was out on her feet.
All right, last exit question. Who's going to win this race?
I think that if he sticks to that central argument about bringing big change to the corrupt system that we've had in Washington for so long,
he wins.
Then he wins. But he's got to be disciplined and stick to it these last few weeks.
I agree. He needs to stay on that teleprompter and do those big rallies. Exactly. He loves them anyway. He's happy tonight. He gets to do all the rallies he wants. He doesn't have to worry about these stupid debates anymore.
He showed discipline.
He did.
Tonight.
I agree.
And he was the substance candidate versus the rhetoric candidate.
She's a robot. She just sits there, regurgitates the same thing she said in the last 2 debates.
And the word that I hear from so many people that I run into, he's real, he's genuine.
Yeah, he is.
And that came through tonight, and I believe that that's
I agree.
When
he said, I've been around this country, and I've learned a lot. That was a big moment for him.
That was a big moment.
Sheriff, who's going to win this?
Donald Trump. You know, I don't tell Donald Trump much in terms of what he's doing, and I've had several conversations with him. But the one thing I did say to him aboard Trump Force One. I said, Mr. Trump, people want a reason to vote for you. Just close the deal with the American people. I think he did that tonight. He's going to win in November. It's going to be, everybody talks about the October surprise. It's going to be the November surprise.
Wow, Sheriff, good to see you. I love that hat. I love all your hats. Thank you for being with us.
Sir.
And Herman, good to see you, my friend.
Happy to be here.
And our British good to see brethren, thank you. All right, coming up, more reaction to tonight's presidential debate. We'll be checking in with Doug Schoen, Niger Innes, Larry Elder, all coming up straight ahead, live from Vegas and the Strip and the MGM Grand.
I'm a saint.
All right, welcome back. We're live on the Vegas Strip with the MGM Grand, and here with reaction to tonight's debate, Fox News contributor Doug Schoen, the chairman of the Tea Party forward and civil rights activist and leader Niger Innes, Salem, nationally syndicated radio talk show host Larry Elder. All right, what do you think?
Strong night for Donald. He came in wanting to look presidential. He did that. The problem is it was Hillary's best night as well. I thought she was very, very effective, especially when she started talking about Donald Trump's alleged insults of this person, that person, that person. She played the hits. But I thought it was very effective for Donald, and I think in the long run, most people are going to weigh the debate and say that he won it.
All right, so you got Donald brought up pay to play.
Right.
Saudis, why does she take money from countries that abuse women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews? She's not an honest person. Pay to play, give the money back, quid pro quo, corruption, deleted emails. On the big issues, she played the hits, but so did he, and I think the issues are worse for her.
I think there's no question, and I think the American people deep down inside know that we've got a sneak preview of the kind of corruption and the kind of pay-to-play in Washington, D.C. that we've all been angry about since 2008. We know exactly what's going to happen.
Is there a hidden Brexit vote we're not capturing?
I think there are a lot of people out there that are going to go in there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What do you think?
There are a lot of people that privately will say they're going to vote for Donald Trump but won't say so publicly. I don't know whether or not that's the case. Some people are arguing that. Sean, the big
I don't want to
tonight,
count on it.
The big winner tonight?
No, we can't count on it.
Chris Wallace. I thought he did a marvelous job.
I got to be honest. I thought he kept this debate on substance. And then let me go to Doug Schoen. Doug, you said on substance, if they stay on substance, Trump wins. Did he win?
I think he did very well. I think it was very close with one but. Because he said he would not necessarily accept the results of the election, all of the mainstream media reporting is not about substance. It's about that comment. It's a distraction.
Well, listen, they might be a distraction now, but here's the problem. Al Gore contested and sued with Bill Clinton.
I got that.
2004 Ohio.
But your point, Sean, is the one that I want to underscore. It's the point that Steve Hilson made. It's got to be about change and corruption in a corrupt Washington.
All right, hang on, guys. Here's Hillary on her plane spinning her debate performance.
Shockingly, she thinks she won.
Yeah, shockingly.
I'm going to say hello. Some of you have been on the trail for the whole time. No more debates. No more naps.
Will you accept the results of the election?
You know, it was horrifying what he said on the debate stage tonight. You know, our country's been around for 240 years. And, you know, we are a country based on laws. And we've had hot, contested elections going back to the very beginning. But one of our hallmarks has always been that we accept the outcomes of our elections. We do the best we can to have free and fair elections, which we do. And somebody wins and somebody loses. So what he said tonight is part of his whole effort to blame somebody else for his campaign and for where he stands in this election. As I said, whenever he is losing, he says the system, whatever the system is, whether it's you know, being in court about Trump University or losing the Iowa caucus in the Wisconsin primary or losing Emmys, for goodness sakes, he says that it's rigged against him. And,
how did you feel when he said, you know, nasty woman, and you're a puppet, and the issue of Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, I just didn't pay any attention to that. I was very concerned that even now, after 17 intelligence agencies in our government, both military and civilian, have confirmed that Russia has engaged in cyber attacks against Americans, that he refused to admit that it's true and condemn it for what it is, which is a blatant effort to try to interfere in our elections.
What will you do? What will you do if?
From your praise for Goldman Sachs bankers to Vesta calling Bernie Sanders a doofus will make it harder for you if you win to rally the liberal base around your agenda and your appointment?
Not at all. Bernie Sanders is out there working hard every day to get me elected. I'm looking forward to working with everybody in our party. But as I said in the closing, which they gave us at the last minute, I'm reaching out to all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. I want to summon every American to, use his or her talents and energy and ambition to really help our country, and that's what I'm going to be focused on.
What will you do if Democratic operatives are supposed, if they are found to have?
I know nothing about this. I'm not, I can't deal with every one of his conspiracy theories, but I hope you all have something to eat and something to drink on the way back to New York.
How did Chris Wallace do?
He did very well. He did very well.
All right, Hillary Clinton on her plate. All right, let me correct a few things here. She seems to be so outraged over the idea that Donald Trump said he'd see if he'd accept the election results because, well, Al Gore once said in the year 2000 to George W. Bush, lectured him saying, your younger brother is not the ultimate authority on this. And he sued over the election results. By the way, he only wanted some votes counted. And by the way, according to the Washington Post, this is 11/8, the year 2000, Bill Clinton seconded that decision. And on top of that, she was talking about Donald Trump mentioning rigged things. She, according to WikiLeaks and her campaign and her supporters, they thought Obama rigged the election in the primaries in 2008 and were whining about it with their lawyers. So what you just heard is just not true. Reaction.
Fair enough. Also, Al Gore still argues that the 2004 election was stolen from him because Ohio was stolen from him. Robert Kennedy Jr. makes the same argument as well. We saw from the leaked emails.
By the way, Richard Nixon did have an election stolen from him by John Kennedy in 1960, if anyone's interested.
A lot of dead people voted in Chicago.
Yeah, a lot of dead people in Chicago.
We saw from the leaked emails, the DNC emails, Bernie Sanders feels very strongly that the election was rigged, and it was. Real quickly about this.
By the way, no, they robbed him blind.
The 17 agencies that she keeps talking about say that the Russians have hacked us, engaged in cyber security, but she's certain, Sean, that her server has never been hacked.
Mm-hmm.
Is this stunning?
I'm certain about
17 agencies said the Russians have been... Wait. But they no-fly zone over her server.
By the way, the FBI released this week that the Romanians actually had her secret material on there.
No-fly zone over her server.
Yeah, agreed, exactly. All right, let me go back to Doug. Doug, Al Gore had no problem suing over an election and wouldn't concede the results. And Bill Clinton, he supported that decision. And Hillary Clinton's on record with her campaign in WikiLeaks saying that Obama might have stolen the caucus states by putting in unregistered voters. So I think she's got a lot of trouble advancing this narrative.
I think there's a difference. Al Gore did accept the results when the Supreme Court decided. I think the idea that Trump, before the election, said he's not sure he's going to accept it, even if he loses by a margin that could be substantial, is, I think, the real problem. But it's also a distraction, because in our democracy, Sean, you do accept the results of a clear election. Look, the real issue is what you've said.
Clear words. We have on video people supported and paid by Hillary Clinton saying they want to institutionalize voter fraud, Doug.
And you know what? It was a scam set up, a sting by a convicted felon. That being said, if that happened, it's at
video. Listen to him in his own words. It's on video.
Yeah, let's hear what the truth is before we rush to judgment.
What do you think, Niger?
I think that Donald did an extraordinary job tonight. He looked presidential. That's the threshold that he needed to meet. There's so many American people that want a change in Washington, D.C. They are sick of the corruption. They're sick of the status quo. And what Donald needed to do is to look and to sound presidential, and he met that threshold.
That was what I think obviously coming in. But while he did that, he was also forceful on a lot of big, important issues. And the idea that she takes money from these countries that treat women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews the way they do is great hypocrisy. The fact on Haiti, You know something?
Oh, it's gross what they're doing.
It's 6% of the money they raise that actually goes to the charity, and then they make a list so their big donors are the first to get opportunities or contracts to make money as a kickback for giving that foundation money. If any of us here did it, except for Doug, he'd probably get a pardon.
I don't think so. Not after this election.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably true. You've been pretty straight in saying, yeah, no, you have been. But we'd be in jail. You'd be.
No, we would be buried under the jail.
We'd be buried here in Vegas off the strip.
Maybe I'll get probation.
I thought Trump also made a very effective closing argument. He mentioned what he would do to improve the lot of black Americans. By the way, Minister Farrakhan has said positive things about Donald Trump, of all people.
Really?
The biographer of a late book on Muhammad Ali told me that Muhammad Ali told him he was going to vote for Donald Trump. So a lot of people, I think, are reconsidering what's been happening to the black economy under Obama, and maybe, just maybe, might think about voting Republican for the
I always wanted to meet Farrakhan. I listened to hours and hours of his speeches. He's mesmerizing. He's an unbelievable orator. What he says about individual responsibility and morality and being fathers and starting business is brilliant. Then he adds the racism and the anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
If you took that away, this guy could have been such a powerful force in his life. But unfortunately, his legacy is one of racism and anti-Semitism.
Maybe he's evolving. All I know is he said some very positive things about Donald Trump. Said give the man an opportunity, give the man a chance, and has said that Obama has failed in trying to improve the economic lot of black people and all the carnage in the streets in Chicago.
And the biggest fear, and the reason that Farrakhan said what he said, and others, P. Diddy, some others as well, some Black Panthers did as well, is because they understand that what's been going on in our communities for half a century has got to.
Hey, well, let me tell you, in 8 years, first black president, 58% increase of blacks on food stamps, 20% increase black Americans out of the labor force. How's liberalism working for you today? You give these statistics every day.
Black net worth down, black
home ownership down,
home ownership down. The so-called wealth gap between an average white household and black household hasn't been wide in 25 years.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Tavis Smiley has said by every major economic metric.
And Cornel West.
Cornel West.
Blacks have done poorly under Obama.
You got to admit, Dr. Cornel West is a trip. I love it.
Great hair, though. Great hair.
I like the scarf.
Great hair.
All right, here's a little history for both of you. Me and Tavis Smiley actually got our careers kind of started together on the day that O.J. Simpson was arrested.
Wow.
We were both on the Clinton News Network, and they kept us there for like 5 hours that day.
Wow.
And we ended up arguing everything that would happen in the O.J. Simpson case. So
you weren't watching the next game?
I wish I was, but no, I wasn't.
Go Cleveland.
Yeah, all right, guys.
Cleveland.
I'm mad at LeBron right now. You know,
he's come out in favor of Hillary.
Johnny Bench in favor of Trump. I'll take Bench. Yeah. All right, when we come back earlier tonight after the debate, well, we're not going anywhere. I spoke with former Texas Governor Rick Perry and the lone survivor himself, Marcus Luttrell, right from the spin room. And then we got Geraldo in the wings over there screaming, Trump, Trump, Trump. We'll get to him in a few minutes. All right, joining us now, former Texas Governor Rick Perry, also presidential candidate, and our buddy Marcus Luttrell, lone survivor, our good friend of the program. How are you doing?
Great.
You like the debate?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it was
fun, right?
It was. It was a great time. It was a lot more fun than I thought. Trump.
I agree. What did you think?
Well, I think Donald Trump has gotten better at every debate. I thought he was from the start to the finish. He was on point. He was leaning into it. He wasn't letting anybody put anything past him. I thought he totally painted her in the corner on an open borders thing. I mean, if there was a powerful moment in the debate for me, it was watching her try to wiggle out of both Chris Wallace and Donald Trump.
She wanted open hemispheres. That's 600 million people, by the way. You know, I had one of my best experiences on the border, and I've been there a dozen times with you. And we were at the Rio Grande, and we were out on a pontoon boat. I'm sure I'm giving the wrong name. But then I sat in a security briefing with you, and people said in a 7-year period of time, 8-year period of time, 642,000 crimes committed against Americans by illegal immigrants crossing our border, just in your state of Texas.
You know, and Donald Trump gets criticized for not being compassionate. Let me tell you what's compassionate. Compassionate is building the secure border that this country deserves so that the people who are in this country legally and are citizens of this country feel safe in their homes. And that's what Donald Trump will do. And that's why people are so excited about him being the next next president of the United States, is securing that border, and we know how to do that. And we can.
Well, you did it. You took it over yourself.
Well, we can, because the federal government, Barack Obama he's been a failure as the president of the United States in a lot of areas, but one of the ones that is the greatest is his failure to secure the border. Right. Because the government, the Congress would have given him the support that he needed, but you have to have a president, you have to have a White House that is willing to go and say, I want it done now, and here's the way we're going to do it.
I'm mad at you. You really helped Obama out. Because if you didn't create the million jobs in Texas, you would have had negative net job growth. I'm teasing.
1.3 million.
1.3 million. All right, I got to get it right. Marcus, from a military standpoint, let me ask you, because Donald Trump talks about the decline in terms of our readiness, also about, and this is a problem for me, we're going to ask American men to fight, bleed, and die for Baghdad, Mosul, Ramadi, Fallujah, Tikrit, and they do their job. And they do fight, bleed, and die. 5,000 Americans die, and many more disfigured, and many more losing their limbs. And then Hillary says, oops, let's politicize it. She voted to send them in. She pulled them out. And ISIS filled the void. We can't, as a country, ask guys like you to do that and then pull out and rip away the victory, the hard-fought victory you gave us.
I know a little bit about this. All those cities you answered, I've been there. So, look, the military's not weak. We're not weak. I never felt weak a day in my life. All my brothers that I served with, we're not weak. The guys coming up after us, they're not weak either. All right, no matter what you see on television, we are ready to go at all times. How hard you jerk us off the leash and push us in there is completely up to the leadership, period.
Now you're talking about rules of engagement. But think about this.
You can staple whatever you want, man. If you're over there fighting and dying for it, it needs to have a purpose. Purpose is what we leave behind here, all the American people. And the biggest thing with the presidency and with this whole deal, man, is that top secret classification and all that stuff you put on the top of the folder. That's the top of the ink, right? Spread that ink out and let it run down the page. You're going to see my name in there. You're going to see Robbie. All the guys that had anything to do with anything going over there, that's what that means. That's our names.
But when we send people over to fight, bleed and die, and they win these cities, and then we give up those cities and pull out because the war has been politicized. 5,000 Iraq, Afghanistan, 58,000 dead in Vietnam. How many times are we going to ask men to fight, bleed, and die, and then pull their victory away?
Forever.
Well, that's wrong.
Oh, I know. But, I mean, you want a real answer, or you want me to sugarcoat it for you? I hear, I'm older now, and I pay attention. I know.
You couldn't sugarcoat if you wanted it.
I just think, that was one of my main concerns. Like, I've heard that talk before. I put my
tonight during this debate, and particularly Donald Trump talked about our veterans, but I didn't hear the word come out of Hillary Clinton's mouth once. We've got tens of thousands of young people that are coming home after being over a decade at war. Traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress syndrome, their opioid abuse, there's alcohol abuse. They're killing themselves somewhere around 25 a day. And we've got a federal government that's absolutely failing them.
VA.
And I didn't hear the Secretary of State, the individual that wants to be the President of the United States, even mention the word veterans.
Governor, she sent them, she voted to send them there. She pulled them out, and then she said, we've got to learn from our mistake. Now, if I'm one of the parents of 5,000 dead Americans, and you're saying, oops, I made a mistake and we got to learn from it, I am one pissed off parent.
That's the reason that the vast majority of the veterans in this country
are voting Trump.
Are voting for Donald Trump. That's the reason that the young men and women in uniform today, my daughter just married one Saturday.
Congratulations.
They're voting for Donald Trump.
I heard he had to walk through a fire to get your approval. Is that true? There's a rumor about that.
Auditioning for my daughter's hand was not an easy thing.
Governor,
but he passed.
He did. Obviously, he made it. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Appreciate everything. Marcus, love you, man. Thank you.